Chapter 2, Mishnah 4. The Mishnah now deals with cases of uncertainty regarding Netilas Yadayim. If it is uncertain whether work was done with the water or whether work was not done with it, or it is uncertain whether the water has the required amount or whether it does not have the required amount, or it is uncertain whether the water is tamei or tahor, these uncertainties are ruled tahor. The Mishnah states the general rule. For they said any uncertainty regarding hands, whether with regard to hands that were tahor until now becoming tamei out of doubt, or with regard to making tamei items that might have been touched by tamei hands, or with regard to purifying tamei hands with questionable netilas yadayim. All these cases are ruled tahor. The next Tana disputes the first Tana with regard to one of these cases, one of the three cases. Rabbi Yossi says, regarding purifying tamei hands with questionable netilas yadayim, the uncertainty is ruled tamei. The Mishnah gives 5 examples of the first 2 types of uncertainty, where someone's hands possibly became tamei, and where someone's tamei hands possibly transmitted tumah to other items. The first example. How so? A person's hands were tahor, and there were 2 tamei loaves of bread in front of him. It is uncertain whether he touched them and made his hands tamei, or whether he did not touch them and his hands remained tahor. The second example. A person's hands were tamei, and there were 2 tahor loaves of turma in front of him. It is uncertain whether he touched them and made them tamei, or whether he did not touch them and they remained tahor. The third example. One of his hands was tamei and one was tahor, and there were 2 tahor loaves of turma in front of him. He touched one of them with one of his hands, but it is uncertain whether he touched it with the tamei hand and made the loaf tamei, or whether he touched it with the tahor hand and the loaf is tahor. The fourth example. A person's hands were tahor, and 2 loaves of bread were in front of him, one tamei and one tahor. He touched one of them, but it is uncertain whether he touched the tamei loaf, so that his hands became tamei, or whether he touched the tahor loaf and his hands remained tahor. The fifth example. One of his hands was tamei and one was tahor, and there were 2 loaves of turma in front of him, one tamei and one tahor. He touched both loaves, each with one of his hands, but it is uncertain whether the tamei hand touched the tamei loaf and the tahor hand touched the tahor loaf, or whether the tahor hand touched the tamei loaf and the tamei hand touched the tahor loaf, and both loaves and both hands are now tamei. The Mishnah teaches the law in all these 5 cases. In all these cases, the tahor hands remain tahor as they were, and the tahor loaves remain tahor as they were, because they are all uncertainties regarding the rabbinic decree of the tumah of hands.